Empire.
It's a tough time in America, but we're fighting on. What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming back for another episode of the Football Jones podcast. I am Mike Jones. You can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. Really tough time. Really difficult last week in our country, and you'd have to be living under a rock to not know what I'm talking about with the murder of George Floyd and the fallout that has followed. It's a very difficult time for people of color in our country, and hopefully for white people as well. I mean, sadly, I know that there are people who aren't fazed by this. I unfortunately have encountered people on social media who wanted to blame George Floyd, who wanted to focus more on the protests and the looting and rioting, were more upset about that than they were the murder of a man in the streets. But I'm determined that I'm going to guard against the urge to just give up. I'm going to continue to communicate and try to educate people and continue to talk to my kids and hope that one day we're not encountering this situation where black lives aren't valued. And one day, hopefully, there is true justice. And one of the things I wanted to do, as I mentioned, trying to educate, is I wanted to have Anquan Boldin, one of the co-founders of the Players Coalition, former NFL wide receiver, have him on the podcast today. He, as you know, has been working for several years now. NFL players have been working because they didn't want to just protest. They wanted to take it further than protest and try to find a way to bring about change and make lives better and make America a safer place for people of color, fight for justice. And here we are again. It's just playing on loop. But I caught up with Anquan today, and we're just going to talk, discuss his reaction, his feeling, his emotions, talk about his plan of action and how we all can join together to try to fight, continue to fight racism, continue to fight for justice. And we're going to get to it right now. All right, so here we are now with Anquan Boldin. Thank you so much for your time. It's I would say how you doing, but I know that's not a simple answer. It's a difficult week for all of us here. I just wanted to have you on to get your thoughts and also the response of the Players Coalition to the murder of George Floyd, the fallout that's followed it. There are a lot of people who are protesting. There are evil people who are hijacking those protests and trying to take away from the message. And I know you guys released a statement yesterday, but I wanted to talk to you and have you on. So thanks for coming on, man.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. It's tough. Definitely a tough time in this country with what we're seeing. It was, right off of the back of, seeing the Ahmaud Arbery situation, the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, and then Breonna Taylor, and then you have the George situation happening. The crazy part about it is, like, we're seeing this stuff like on video. We're seeing it happen. Like, it's not where people have to tell you or you have to use your imagination or anything like that. Like, you see it with your own two eyes. And like, for me, that's the disgusting part. And then, like, I don't know if you have kids or whatever, but yep. Like, I have a 15-year-old son who's on social media.
Same.
And a lot of the times they know about this stuff before we do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm not big on social media like that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, our kids are seeing this stuff. you're forced to, whether you want to or not, you're forced to explain to them the way that this world works. You know what I'm saying? And it's, for as much as you want your kids to stay innocent, for as much as you want to protect them or whatever it is, you also have a duty as a parent to enlighten them on what's going on. And it's unfortunate, but you know, that's the world that we live in now. And man, my heart goes out to all of those families, because, you know, I know personally how that feels. You know what I'm saying? I lost a cousin at the hands of law enforcement. And I think the disheartening part about it is, if we gave this scenario to any 7, 8, 9-year-old, right? And we told them this is what happened, you would, and we asked them what should happen to this guy that killed this man. Mm-hmm. From every last one of them, we would get the exact same answer, that this guy should go to jail and that he should serve time. How is it that adults cannot get this right? How is it that you have differing opinions about the right way to take care of this? How is it that this guy is not immediately charged and prosecuted for murdering somebody? And not only him, but those that are around him, and allowing him to do this. What kind of world are we living in? Right. What kind of country are we living in that everybody isn't seeing this as a murder? I mean, it is what it is. It's a murder.
Right. Right.
So how can you see it any differently? And you have those that are in positions of power calling on help from the public in calming down the masses, right? Mm-hmm. When the only thing you had to do was the right thing to do, and we wouldn't be in this position. So you're so worried about, you know, people protesting, or at this point you're worried about the looting and the rioting, when all of it could have been prevented had you guys done the right thing.
What's the feeling like for you? Because, you know, the Players Coalition started because you guys wanted to try to do your part to create change. And here we are all these years later, and this is still happening again and again. How do you describe how that feels when you see, I know you guys have made a lot of progress on a lot of fronts, but then something like this happens and it's just I don't even know.
So I think we're at a point now as a nation where we have to ask ourselves, what is it that's allowing this to continue to happen? What are we fighting? And that's an honest question that we have to have as a nation, because there is something that continues to allow these type of actions to take place in our country, right? Yep. And not be dealt with in a proper manner. So for me, it's, I don't want to be in this fight just to be in this fight, to say I was one of the people who, you know, back in 2018 or 2020, like I was on the front lines and no, I'm in this to win. I'm in this to expose all these things that are wrong in our country. I'm in it to expose the system that allows this to go on. So we look at law enforcement, and I don't want to sound like I'm anti-law enforcement, because I'm not. Like I have, and I hate to say this, you know, you have to continue to tell people, you know, I have family that's law enforcement. I have, you know, friends and family. Like, yeah, I do. But I also am disgusted with law enforcement that overstep their bounds. In this country, we've given too much authority to law enforcement. And what I mean by that, there are certain situations that law enforcement are in and they have no business being in it. Mm-hmm. You have calls that will include somebody having a mental breakdown or mental issues. law enforcement isn't trained to deal with that. So having an emotionally charged officer go out to confront somebody who is off of their meds or whatever it is a recipe for disaster. Or having law enforcement to go out and deal with somebody who has an addiction and they have no form of training in that field is a recipe for disaster. But we put them in these positions to go out and exact justice in situations where they should never be called out to, right? But then there are situations like George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or Tamir Rice or, you know what I'm saying, the countless others, my cousin, Corey Jones. There's situations where law enforcement has clearly overstepped their bounds and killed somebody, right? What kind of system that allows them to not be held responsible? What kind of system allows a cop like the one in Minnesota to continue to be on the force even after 18 complaints?
Right.
So we only see the end of that deal, him killing George Floyd. But what about the 18 prior complaints that led up to this? Why was he never dealt with? Why was he never reprimanded? Why wasn't he fired on complaint number 5 or complaint number 10? What kind of system do we have that allows an unfit person to continue to carry a badge and a gun? Like, you should have to earn the right to be a law enforcement officer. You have to earn the right to be a soldier. Like in the military, they have mental evaluations every year. You have to earn the right to serve in the military year in and year out. But when it comes to law enforcement, we don't have that. But we have language in our Supreme Court that gives immunity to officers when they kill somebody without cause. Or we have these union contracts that allows officers to continue to be on the force, even though you know that they're bad officers. So what kind of system are we living under? What kind of system are we allowing to govern us? And unless we pull back the mask off this system and totally reconstruct how policing is done in the United States, I guarantee you we will be here again.
So is that where you shift your attention to now? I mean, I know you guys have done a lot of work lobbying on criminal justice reform, education, community relations with law enforcement. Where do you pivot to now after something like this to try to combat it?
It has to be aimed at the system that allows this. It has to be reconstructing that entire system. It has to be going after the language in Supreme Court that allows officers to get away with this, allowing them immunity when something like this happens. It's going after the mayors who are doing these contracts with the unions and making sure that the right language is in these contracts. But because for too long we're fighting and we're throwing darts at this target. And unless we know exactly what it is that we're trying to hit, we're going to continue in this cycle until we take down this system that allows this stuff to take place, until we start to unmask what's going on in America. We're going to have people frustrated 20 years from now. We're going to have people who feel like they're marginalized 20 years from now. So we have to deal with that system. And until we do, then we're going to be in the same place.
To do that, you guys have established some relationships with lawmakers and things like that. I mean, is that like this week? Do you start contacting them? What are your steps from here now?
Oh yeah, it's immediate. I mean, here's the thing though. Like, you're old enough to know that this isn't the first time that rioting has happened in the United States, right?
Right.
We've seen it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've seen rioting happen. We've seen the whole Rodney King situation, right? And the thing that I'm afraid of is us allowing this moment to pass without bringing about meaningful change. I'm afraid that if we don't come together collectively, the messaging will get hijacked and we will miss this moment in creating real change to make sure that we're not back here again. So for us, it's everybody is angry, everybody is outraged, and rightfully so. But then you have to sit back and you have to ask yourself, number one, what is it that I want? And number two, how do I get what I want? So you have to come up with a strategy. You have to understand what it is that you're fighting, and you have to pinpoint it. And once you pinpoint exactly what it is that you need to attack, then you go about your plan of action. But we all need to understand that. We all need to understand that there is a common enemy. There is a common system. There are common players that's allowing this to continue to happen in our country. And if we're going to make any progress, then we got to shine the light on that and start there.
I mean, it'd be very easy to get discouraged and to give up. I mean, I don't know when I felt so low and so hopeless. Last week, I don't know when I felt so angry, so sad, and just wondering, like, man, I mean, is this ever, I never thought, I'm 39 now, I never thought that my kids would be seeing this type of thing still going on. Like you said, you know, I've got a 15-year-old son too. I've got a daughter who's 19, 18. Them having to see this stuff, them talking about this stuff on social media. I just never thought that we'd be here. And then part of me is like, man, this country was founded on white supremacy and it's always going to be there. But I know at the same time that we can't give up and we can't stop fighting. What would your message be to, you know, you guys have, you know, the Players Coalition, you guys have set a great example. If you're talking to someone, to the fans, how would you advise them right now? What's something they can do to take action? Not just sit back and watch you guys, you know, lobby and use your platforms, but what should everybody be doing right now to help fight this?
I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to educate ourselves about what's really going on. We have to understand the system and how it works, because we can be angry and we can be mad and we can be pissed off and we can all of that. But until we understand how this thing is happening, we're going to continue to be angry and pissed off and mad and disgusted with what we see. So we have to educate ourselves. We have to understand, like when we're talking about, like, for example, the Ahmaud Arbery case in Georgia.
Right.
I think there were three separate DAs on the case.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we have to understand, like, a lot of these DAs are in bed with law enforcement. So when situations like that happen, the last thing they want to do is prosecute law enforcement. But we also have to understand we are the ones who elect DAs and state's attorneys. Mm-hmm. We are the ones who put them in those seats. So it's on us to understand and be knowledgeable about what they stand for. What policies do they stand for? We have to be knowledgeable enough to go out and vote these people right up out of these seats. Because I guarantee you, if the right person was elected DA in that region, that case would not have sat for 2.5, 3 months.
Right.
We would have had somebody who would have done the right thing the first time around, not people trying to protect those who are the offenders. We actually had several DAs try to protect murderers. Think about that. We elected this DA, we being the people. You elected somebody who protected some murderers, who prevented them from being arrested. And not only did she prevent them from being arrested, when they found out there was a conflict of interest, you passed it to somebody else who you knew would do the same thing that you did. And even after you passed it and they found out that he had a conflict of interest in that, he still tried to give his opinion and taint the case before he passed the buck. Well, this is the reason why I felt like they should not have been arrested. So it's on us to educate ourselves how this system works. Do you know who your DA is? Do you know the policies that they stand behind? Do you know the next time that seat is up for election? Who do we put in that seat? Who do we know that is progressive enough that is willing to indict and charge law enforcement when they step outside of their bounds. And stop letting people tell you your vote doesn't count. Because I see firsthand right here in Florida, them trying to prevent you from getting to the polls. If your vote didn't count, they wouldn't be fighting so hard. Last year, we helped get Amendment 4 passed here in Florida, which restored voting rights to 1.4 million people in the state of Florida, formerly convicted felons, now have the right to vote. And guess who was one of the first people to appeal that ruling? The governor, DeSantis. So these characters need to be called out. We need to put these people on blast. But the only way we can do that is to educate ourselves on what's going on in our country. We can't sit back and allow it to happen. For too long, we have been reacting to everything that goes on in this country. It's a time now where we have to be proactive.
We've seen a number of NFL players speak up, young guys, guys, not just black guys, white guys, it seems like everybody's starting to get it. It looked like the last time there was recently when the Players Coalition put something out, I noticed Tom Brady's name was on there. Have you all been actively working to recruit more guys? Or has it just been something that's been growing based on you all's efforts and people finally understanding that they need to take action and not just sit back and let a particular group do the fight?
I think it has grown organically. I think guys have been able to see the work that we have been able to do. And I think, to be honest with you, guys are just fed up. People are tired. You know what I'm saying? White, black, Asian, people are tired of what's going on in this country. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the reason that you see more guys starting to step up and speak out. I think guys are starting to realize the power of their voice as well. You know what I'm saying? I think people are realizing that, hey, I do have a voice. I can make a difference. And I'm going to use my voice because I'm not cool with what's going on in this country.
What do you think that we're going to see once football season starts? Do you think that we'll see more guys? Right now it's easy to kind of be active because there's nothing going on. But do you think that we're going to, hopefully this carries over and we see more guys using their platform? I'm not saying, I don't, whether sideline protests or whatever, but just being involved in their actions in the community and the efforts that you guys are doing, even once football season kicks off.
Yeah, I would love to see this be just a springboard going into the season. I would hope that every player and every team joins in this fight, because it's going to take more than 10, 20, 30 of us. We need everybody in this fight. Mm-hmm. And like you said, sometimes it can get tiring. Sometimes it can get frustrating. Sometimes you can feel lonely in the fight. But it's going to take all of us. If we're really going to make a difference in this country, if we're really going to turn this moment into something monumental, into changing the way we are policed in this country, it's going to take all of us.
We saw over the weekend, Joe Lockhart, who used to be the top PR guy for the NFL, said they were wrong, that the Kaepernick should have been signed, that somebody should sign him now. The NFL released a statement just in support of, George Floyd's family. We saw the 49ers donate $1 million. What was your reaction to all of that? I mean, you guys have been saying for the longest that that Cap was not protesting the flag, that his mission was deeper. You guys took the protest a step further. But when you hear that from Lockhart, you see the NFL releasing a statement. What was your reaction to all that?
I mean, I think from day one, we stated that, obviously. You know what I'm saying? Cap doesn't have a job because he kneeled, because of what he stood for. There's no other way to say that. There's no other way you can sugarcoat it. He doesn't have a job. He's not in the NFL now because he took a knee. Plain and simple. Did the NFL handle that wrong? Of course they did. They handled that completely wrong. Matter of fact, Cap should still be in the NFL, because even right now, you can't tell me that there are, 32 teams?
Right.
And every team has a backup, 64?
Right.
You can't tell me that. Right. Some of them have 3. So you can't tell me that there's 64 plus guys that can play quarterback than somebody who previously led his team to the Super Bowl. Like even the guy whose job he took was still in the league
Mm-hmm.
after Cat was let go. Matter of fact,
I think
the guy's job who he took was a starter. First in Kansas City and then went to Washington and was the starter. So you can't tell me that there were 64 guys that were better than Cat and that he didn't deserve to be on a roster and pursue his dream. But all because of what he stood for, he's not able to live out that dream.
So do you feel like the NFL is genuine in this, when you see it, like how contradictory, okay, now they're supportive and everything, but they definitely blackballed him. Or do you feel like now they kind of get it, they're just trying to make amends for that, and that book is closed?
Who in the NFL are you talking about?
Well, I mean,
because I feel like there are there are those that still feel that way about him in the NFL. Like, do I think there's some people in the NFL that are true to how they feel about Black unarmed men being killed? Of course I do. But I also think that there's another group that are in the NFL who could care less.
What do you think? Like, when you started this, 3-4 years ago, did you expect that the fight was going to be as difficult as it is and still is? And then 4 years from now, what is realistic? What should we hope to see?
I didn't expect this fight to be easy, right? Because there is a way that we have been doing things, and when I say we, our country, there is a way that this country has been ran since its inception. So it would be naive of me to think that, oh, you can just come right in and change that system. And even though me and you might see it, the same way, there's a lot of people who are not willing to budge on the power that they have. And for a lot of people, power is the last thing that people are willing to part with. Like, you will get people to part with money before they part with power.
Right.
So did I think it would be easy? No, of course not, because there's a lot of people that are in positions of power and are fine with the way this country is being ran, who you're going to have to fight tooth and nail. You're going to have to expose them in every way. And even still, they're not going to relinquish that power. So did I think it was going to be easy? No. But I've always been a fighter. I grew up fighting. In my neighborhood, if you didn't fight, good luck. But that's what we're going to have to continue to do. Not just a couple of us, all of us. But we're going to have to do it together. We're going to have to pinpoint that common enemy. Because you can't be fighting one thing over there and I'm fighting one thing. Nah, we're going to have to pinpoint who this enemy is. And we're going to have to take it from there. So like 4 years from now, hopefully we expose this country for what it truly is. We expose these policies for what they truly are. Because none of these policies were actually put in place with us in mind. Like when this country was writing the Constitution, we weren't even considered human. So until we unmask America for who it is and the policies that they stand on, can we truly make a change?
Well, Anquan, thank you so much for your time. I know you're going to keep on fighting. Hopefully everybody joins forces and we all do this together, because like you said, it can't be, 20, 30 guys. It's got to be everybody, whether you're, have a great platform, and great resources, or whether you're just a regular dude, everybody's got to fight this thing. I'll be fighting alongside with you and hopefully everybody out there as well.
Well, thanks for having me too, man.
All right, thanks. And you have a great day, man.
You too.
There you have it. A very, I felt like, meaningful talk there with Anquan Boldin. As he said, we've got to continue to educate ourselves. I don't care what color you are. You know what right is. Stand up for what's right. Educate yourselves on lawmakers. Educate yourselves on organizations that you can lend your financial and physical support. Get involved. And hey, we got an election coming up. Make your voice heard. And hopefully we take steps forward. Well, I hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening. Again, you can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ByMikeJones. And please share this episode with someone so we continue to have this dialogue, this discussion, and keep moving forward. Thanks. Have a great one.